So for the past 2 weeks, I've been playing a lot of 7 Days to Die, and I've really been enjoying my time with the game. Now, this is a game that's been sort of sitting on my Steam library for a couple of years now, actually. And I think this game released back in 2013, 14, around that. And I'm pretty sure I got this game around 2019, maybe 18, around there. And I tried to play it once back then. And I didn't really remember much besides the fact that there were a lot of zombies and I was kind of exploring this building. And at the time, I don't think that the graphics looked that great. So I don't know if that's like the perception that I had back then when I played it and I really wasn't paying too much attention back at the time, or if they dramatically changed the way the game looks. Because, like I said, I've currently been playing this game for the past 2 weeks. I get home from work, I get on the game for about an hour or two, depending on how tired I'm feeling after work, and do a little bit of exploring, a little bit of building and stuff like that. And I mean, in total, I have around 35 hours. Like in the weekends, I have a little bit more time to play, but usually during the weekdays, I only have about an hour or two before, I need to go to bed because I'm tired and stuff. So there's a lot that I have yet to uncovered and discovered in the game. So I think the enjoyment factor when it comes to 7 Days to Die is potentially huge, right? And if you know me, I really do love early access games. I know early access games and betas and stuff like that get a lot of bad reputations from a lot of people simply because they see it as a way to kind of sell a game, this vision, like the future of a game, without it actually being properly implemented when it's first released. So they have an excuse to sort of release poorly optimized games and quality, like low quality games. That's what a lot of people kind of get from early access a lot of the times. Now, I can understand that factor as well, right? Because there have been times where games have not been the best when you're playing them for the very first time in early access or early alpha, whatever the situation may be when the game is quote unquote released. But personally, even through its downfalls of any game, as long as it's being updated, whether it's consistently or not consistently, right? Like Valheim is a game that I've been waiting for an update for a very long time since the game came out in early access. And we barely got an update a couple of weeks ago. And in my opinion, for as long as we've waited, I don't know what's going on with the team or anything, right? It could be a small team for all I know. So I'm not like trying to talk trash to anyone or anything. But like what they added was cool, but for the amount of time that I've been waiting for something to come out, like something new to be able to do in Valheim, it was definitely not worth the wait. Like it seems like they haven't really implemented anything like dramatically new. Now, maybe the game could drastically change in the future for that game, but that's not a game that I want to talk about right now. But it still was a fun experience, and I think it's definitely still worth the price if you haven't played Valheim yet, right? Like I think it's worth buying it at its current state, but it will come a point to where eventually you've just done everything possible and you really don't want to do anything else unless you really are a fan of the building and you kind of find it relaxing and enjoyable. Then that could be a game that you sort of stick around doing a lot of building and designs, which are very popular on YouTube, and there's a lot of really beautiful designs of bases that people build in creative mode and stuff. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you want to play through and how you're willing to sort of play the games. And me, when I played Valheim, I just played it normally to where I just did all the bosses, explored as much as I wanted to. I didn't explore everything because everything just seemed to be repetitive no matter how far out you go into the maps, unless you end up going like to the very edges of each side of the maps. But at the end of the day, you sort of get like the repetitiveness of what's near your location anyways. So there was not really that much of a difference. But I still enjoyed my time, and I will still say that the game was definitely worth this price even till this day. But speaking on 7 Days to Die, like I said, it's on early access, and I'm just looking forward to the updates that are to come. I don't know what the developers' intentions are for this game in the future. But I will say this is kind of like a better casual, like it can be brutal. Like this game can be brutal depending on the settings that you enable, or even if you play with the default settings, right? But I have not played too much online with random people, and I know there are servers which I don't know technically how they work, because I know like Rust has community servers, but then they also have official servers. And that game is mainly based on PvP, like it's really PvP heavy. When it comes to this game, I feel like there is potential to be PvP, but the main focus is PvE, right? And even if it allows for PvP, like I said, I don't know if there's official servers to where there are servers run by the developers or something, and people can kind of join, and maybe there's like a wipe where the map wipes. I don't know any of that stuff. Like I said, I don't have that much time. Like in total, I have like 35 hours, which, yeah, it does seem like a lot, but there's still so much that I haven't done. I've been using my time to just kind of explore the map, to learn the building mechanics. There's a lot of things that I haven't unlocked. And overall, I feel like there's a lot of content for a $25 game. And yeah, it's already well worth the price of what I paid for what I'm still playing and trying to learn more about the game. Now, it's a basic, almost like a basic survival game, right? To the point where you need to find shelter, you need to find food, you go exploring, you farm some trees so you can make a pickaxe, a hatchet, whatever the case may be, get some water, and kind of like survive the night with the element of zombies. And a while back ago, a long time ago actually, Rust used to have zombies, right? And it wasn't anything like this. It was a little bit different. And Rust still, to this point, has animals in it. The forest the forest, 7 Days to Die also has animals. And they even have like zombie animals and stuff. But it does really seem very open world-ish, in the sense that potentially the maps are very huge to where you can kind of explore a lot of abandoned buildings, and there's basically nothing that you cannot get into in this game, which is something that I enjoy. You can literally dig underground and make tunnels, or make a base underground. You can break any building with the right equipments, the right tools. You can build in one of these places if you want, reshape it however you want. Like, there's a lot of things that I still don't understand of how like complex the building mechanic is, that there's a lot of things that I probably have yet to learn when it comes to 7 Days to Die, because I'm still at the point where I'm just building basic blocks and taking over like abandoned buildings, because you're in an apocalyptic world. But I'm just taking over like these random buildings that look very nice or very cozy, and I kind of like paint them over, because you get like this paintbrush that you can craft and you can design your house to look a certain way. But there's a lot of things that I still haven't figured out how to do. I don't know if it's possible to do, but I think if it is, there's just so many things to learn when it comes to this game that I have yet to discover. So like I said, I've been having a really good time. Now, The Forest is another game that kind of reminds me of 7 Days to Die. The Forest is kind of like an open world as well, but it has a story within it, which you can follow like the linear path of doing that said story, and you can do it at your own pace, or you can kind of explore the world of The Forest. And I'm definitely looking forward to like the second or sequel of The Forest. But I would say like almost all survival games have a lot of things in common, right? Like, what separates this game is like the uniqueness of the 7 days. So every 7 days you kind of get like this blood moon, and you can almost think of it like a tower defense game, right? So whenever these certain 7 days come, every 7 days, right? Like 7, 14, 21, the horde gets harder and the zombies like actually come to you. The sky turns like bloody red and everything, and like the sound changes and the atmosphere changes, and you have to get ready to fight the mobs that are trying to attack your base, or depending on the location that you're currently at, the zombie of a herd will actually find you, and you have to defend yourself in your home and try not to die and lose your stuff. And it can be very chaotic after a certain amount of time. And the difficulty can kind of scale between the number of players that you have, the game level that you are in your personal character, because you can also level up certain traits in your character and get like in-game levels to where it makes the zombies a little bit more difficult to kill and stuff like that. So a lot of things kind of scale with you, or if you have other people kind of playing with you, like with your friends. And this is a game that you could play alone, right? Like I've been playing alone, but I've also, been playing on a server as well. It just really depends. But most of the time I have been playing alone because like I said, I come home from work, I play about an hour of it. Yeah, because, it's easier to sort of sometimes play alone. So you don't like get on a server with other random people, or even if you get on a server where you're playing with your friends, you don't want to kind of progress without them, because if you get on the server, the days keep going, and like I said, it gets harder and harder. And if you're playing without like your friends on a specific server, then they're going to miss out on like the events of those 7 days that are occurring, and you're going to be the only one trying to defend the base or the current location that you're at. But I think that's kind of like the unique aspect and why the game is called 7 Days to Die. So that's something different between other survival games. Now, I can see this being very like PvP heavy as well. If they do have official servers, like I said, I'm not particularly sure if they actually do, but it could be sort of like Rust, except, there's actually zombies, and it just adds a new element to make it a lot more complicated, and you have to play super strategically to where you're going to fight other enemies, kill other enemies while trying to like evade zombies and stuff like that. I don't know how like a server like that would work, simply because of how like the game scales the zombies depending on your level. Like what if there's a high level on the server you're playing? So like I said, I don't know if there's official servers, and even if you start up a server and are playing with a whole lot of people, I wouldn't know how that would actually work when it comes to like PvP and you take their stuff. But so far I haven't been doing any of that. I've just been exploring the world. I've been crafting things. I've been going through a lot of buildings. Like I still have yet to explore all of the snow area. I still have yet to explore all of like this fiery ash place where there's like nothing but like ashes falling down from the sky. Like there's this really hot city filled with fire or lava. I don't even know what it is, but it looks very cool and creepy. But every time that I go into this particular city, I'm always like hot and I have to take my clothes off. But if I take too much of my clothes off, then I'm burning. So another thing that this game kind of reminds me of, like the complexity of it, is like Project Zomboid. Now, Project Zomboid is a different type of game. I feel like that game obviously looks different, but Project Zomboid is like super in depth. Like I would say it's really hardcore for like the enthusiasts that want every little detail to matter. Like there's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to in Project Zomboid, and it takes a lot of like learning to learn certain aspects of the game. But I would say this is kind of like Project Zomboid in a sense that there are certain things you have to look for. Like you can get a concussion, you can break your arm, almost like Escape from Tarkov, right? To where you can make like bullets out of certain items, not just craft the bullets by themselves, but you have to in particular look for specific like bullet plates and gunpowder and like all these different types of materials in order to make the specific bullet that you want. And there's different types of guns, and the way that you make the guns, I think it's very unique. The way that you can craft like motorcycles and bicycles and cars and all of these other things that you can kind of explore and find within the game, I think are very creative and unique within this genre of survival game. Now, like I was saying about the aspect from Escape from Tarkov, like if you get a concussion, you have to take painkillers, which makes sense. Like if your head is hurting and stuff like that, if you break your leg, you have to wear a splint. And there's just a lot of little details that you end up figuring it out within the game. Now, it's not as complicated, like I said, as Project Zomboid or even Escape from Tarkov, to where when you want to heal, you have to like actually place it on your arm and stuff like that. You just press a button. As long as you have like the right medical equipment, you just use it and it automatically like heals that particular illness that you have within 7 days to die. But I think the fact that it's still, pretty much in depth in that aspect to where you just don't take heals and you automatically heal. You can also get infected by being bitten by a zombie, and you kind of have like this percentage bar on the bottom left of your screen, and it tells you, until you're basically going to die, turn into a zombie or whatever. But you can kind of counter that by making certain medications with the ingredients that it tells you in the inventory or crafting menu. So there's just a lot of little details, and I really like that aspect of this game so far. Like I said, there's a lot for me to uncover and kind of discover within the game. But overall, I've been having a good time. I think the sound design sounds really phenomenal. Like whenever you're shooting your guns, reloading your guns, the recoil of the guns, I think it's pretty good. The cities that you're kind of exploring, the empty towns, it definitely makes it feel super open world to where there's always something you want to look through, and it kind of caters to the fact that you actually want to go out and explore. You want to go on an adventure and see what there is to discover. Now, there are also quests that are available in this game that you can kind of do like little side missions for a certain amount of money, because there is, like, I want to say this merchant or this shop within the game. Like, it's this particular AI or NPC that within a certain time zone, he opens from, let's just say, 10 a.m. and closes at 6 p.m. You can go into his shop. He can give you some quests to do, give you some money. You can level up your skills like that in a different way. And you can get some money to buy things from his shop if there's certain items that you may need that you're probably running low on. So I think that concept is actually pretty cool as well. And the other thing that I do like is which is another factor that reminds me of Project Zomboid, is the ability to get points after you level up your character. Like exploring, looting stuff, crafting stuff, hitting a certain amount of like wood and killing zombies. Like you get a certain amount of XP for everything that you do. And once you level up, like from level 1 to level 2, you get a certain amount of points. I'm just going to call it skill points, to where you can unlock a new skill. And you have like these categories of things that you can sort of put into your character, like Project Zomboids, and you can decide where your skill points, like where they want to go. So if you want to like be better at healing, be able to steady your gun a little bit better so you can get more accurate headshots, maybe be able to run faster, or like have your stamina last longer, be faster at being able to pick locks in the game, because there are a lot of doors and safes and safe boxes and stuff like that are locked behind, locks that you have to pick. So there's just a lot of little in-depth details like that you can sort of use your skill points to sort of skill a certain particular category that you want. Or you can do individual categories, and each of them specifically say what they do. So like I said, you want to learn how to make a certain type of meds or a workbench. Like there's certain things that you have to learn in order to be able to craft that specific item that you want. But also, you learn some new abilities by unlocking that certain category and the subcategories within the category. So I think that concept is pretty cool. And there's still a lot of things left for me to unlock within the game when it comes to the skill points and the categories that I have a long way to go when it comes to that perspective. So overall, like I said, this game is really fun. Definitely check it out. If you haven't, I don't know why, like I said, I don't know why it took me so long to actually give this game a try. Maybe I wasn't in the best state of mind previously, a few years ago when I first played this game. But overall, having a good time. I'm going to continue to keep playing it until I get bored eventually, or I run out of things to do, or it no longer satisfies my needs for gaming and I find something else in play, right? Because I always end up going back to like the same games eventually. Like I go back to like Rocket League, I go back to Valorant, I go back to Rust, Risk of Rain 2 casually. So there's just a lot of other games that I'm always going to go back to. And maybe this is going to be a game in my category I'm going to go back to eventually if I ever stop playing, because it's an early access, and whenever it's fully released, maybe they're going to add more content. And even before it becomes like fully released, it's going to probably have a lot of updates in between. So it gives me something to do and something to look forward to within the game. Now, I do believe that 7 Days to Die is available on console, but if it's like any other game, usually the consoles, unless it was released on console first, even then, most of the time the updates seem to be last on console, and the updates are sort of pushed first within the PC version. I don't know if that's the case for 7 Days to Die. So everything that I'm talking about specifically is just talking about the PC version. Now, the last thing that I do want to touch on is the optimization of the game. I think it's very well optimized, especially the fact that I have an outdated GPU. I'm still rocking a 970 GPU. Like, if you listen to any of my episodes, I always complain about not being able to find a retail price GPU. Like, I want to be able to get a 3070 Ti, and I'll be completely happy. But, a lot of the times they're selling for well over retail price for like $1,000 or something, and I don't want to pay that. But yeah, I think it's very well optimized. Like, I run on medium settings. Some things are on high, like they're tweaked a little bit to what I want particularly to look better in certain aspects, right? Like, I want the terrain and the grass and the buildings and the textures to look good, but maybe I just don't want the shadows too much, right? Even though the shadows do help with how the game looks, it gives it like the realistic depth. Like, a lot of people disable shadows, but I feel like the shadows definitely bring out something within every game that makes it look a little bit more immersive and realistic. But I have those set as medium because they seem to be the ones that are harder to kind of run. And, I have like my texture super high. Then there's other things that I have like super low. But overall, even the way that I'm playing, I think the game looks pretty good. And yes, I did put like my settings to max, but my game literally stutters and I get like less than 60 FPS. But overall, the way that I'm running it now, I get between 80 to 90, sometimes 100. And it's not a competitive FPS game for me. It's like a casual survival game. So I'm perfectly fine with a game looking visually stunning and at least having above 60 FPS consistently. And I'm perfectly satisfied. If I could run 100 FPS on like story games or any like casual visually stunning game, that would be like the dream, right? Even 120 FPS or 110. But at 100, I'll be perfectly satisfied. But that's more of the limitation with my GPU and my PC specs than it is the game. But the fact that I can run it pretty well, speaks a lot for how well the game is optimized, at least for me. So anyways, that's all I really wanted to talk about. So I guess I'll talk to you next time whenever I have something else that I want to talk about. And, I'm excited to talk about Attack on Titan whenever the season's over. I've been enjoying the hell out of that. I want to talk about a few other indie games that I've been playing here and there, but I want to put more hours into it before I fully talk about these games. So yeah, besides that, that's all I wanted to say. So hope you have a lovely rest of your night or day whenever you're listening, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Be safe.